Hello and welcome to the video on making cheap fast modular hills. I got this idea from a YouTube channel called Haunts Wargaming, and I would really recommend going over. I'm gonna put a link in the description. He does a much better job on these. He takes his time, and he makes them look a lot better than mine. That being said, I need to fill a table quickly with terrain. And there's a couple other reasons, so I went at it a different way, and I'm going to show you how right now. Okay, to start with, we get some 1.5 inch thick XPS foam. They call that green stuff. Now here's what I made earlier, and I made it so I have some drawers. Those of you who have watched the channel before know that I'm really conscious of storage space, which is why I really love these hills, modular as they are. So basically I measured the size of the drawer it was going into, and it came out to whatever size that was. The reason I'm showing you this is because when you do it modular, the second level you want to make about 1/4 of the size of your lower level. I found that works out pretty good. So I've marked it off here, and then that way I could half from the left, half from the top, and that gave me the size of 1/4, and then that's the size of a full one. So it works out well. Now when you do these for real, you're obviously going to lay them out a lot better than I just did for this example. You're going to compact them together and get the most as you can out of a sheet. Once you've got them marked out, then you cut out your shapes. I made mine raggedy just because the way I wanted them to look. They also look a lot better when they're raggedy than just a smooth shape. Smooth shapes don't happen in nature. You can cut them with a bread knife, or I used a cheap Chinese wire cutter. Try to make them look interesting, and then once you have your pieces, you get yourself a knife, and you are going to cut the strata layers that you can see in rock. And you do that just by going along the sides carefully without losing any fingers, and cut yourself in some parallel lines. The more you do, I found the better it looks, but you know, just a couple aren't going to do it. If you ever look at rock, it's got, you know, lots of strata lines. So to the scale we're doing, you know, you want quite a few, not just 2 or 3. The other thing is, when it digs out little holes like you can see it's doing here, make sure you get rid of like the little bits that come out. But they also look really good because it looks like the freezing and thawing have popped out pieces of rock like it would in nature, leaving small cavities. So, you know, not a bad thing. Don't worry about it. You don't want nice lines. You just want random lines going all over the place, because nature doesn't like straight lines. When you're done with that, cut some of these, decide which side's going to be your top. Well, I did mine one-sided. On Haunts Wargaming, he did his two-sided. I don't need them to be two-sided. I can't imagine why I would. So I cut them, and I made sure that the widest part of the V was facing towards what I was going to use as the top side. And again, you don't want them nice cuts too much. I mean, a few's good, but depending on the rock you're trying to simulate. Once you've done that, you go around the edges and start carving bits out. Now, if you notice, again, they're not straight cuts. It's cut and rip, cut and rip. The other thing that's going to help you is where you've cut your stratas, you're going to have a natural piece for it to kind of pull up, and that's going to help kind of mold it in. So as it's painted, you know, your split lines and your crumble lines will match up, hopefully, with a strata line. And it's all about tricking the eye. It's, you know, it's a table piece, so you can do them really nice so you can get up close and inspect them. But for me, I wanted these to last, you know, to go quickly and to get a lot of them out there. Now I can always go back and pretty these up like anything else I try to make. I get it to where it's table ready and as good as I can in an amount of time that I want to spend on it, and leave myself options to go back and make them better. So once you've got your corners done, you want to start scoring the top. Now I found cutting at an angle looks good, because stratas are never parallel, so it also gives you the ability to go in at another angle and pull out gouges. So in a lot of rock faces, gouges along the top are from when glaciers melt and pour great big boulders along the ground and stuff like that, or rock falls. So gouges are good. You don't want it flat. You want to have some interesting patterns in the top level. Now we're going to be working with this flat space later, so all we're trying to build is the bare bones, like a skeleton of the hill. So you just go through and try and make it interesting. The other thing I do is maybe build some wider gullies that go towards an edge, which would be a water runoff. So, you know, it's water freezing, breaking stone, all kinds of things that go on in nature over thousands of millions of years. Okay, now you got your skeleton. I used 75% PVA, 25% water, and then some black paint. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that mixture and you are going to slop it on there pretty thick, and you are going to make sure that you get inside every nook and cranny, because anything you don't get into is going to shine through as the green of the foam. What you're doing with this is you are protecting the foam from anything you'll put on there that might melt the foam. So if you're going to use spray paints later, for example, you kind of want a barrier between the paint and the foam, otherwise it will just melt. It also protects it during gameplay. It gives it like a rubber surface, which is good. And it also gives you something for your acrylic paint to stick to, because this XPS foam has like oils in it, and this is why, and you'll see if and when you do this, when you first put this on, there'll be areas that kind of blister out that it won't want to stick to, even with only 25% water. I've tried thicker PVA and it is a monster to try and get on there. So by doing it with water, it makes it easier to put on in a thicker layer. You can slap it all on easier. But as you can see on this piece, you'll see these like tiny rings or tiny circles, and those are like spots of oil, and they're resisting, you know, what you're putting on there. So make sure you get on everything, and if you don't have this on there and you try and paint it, that's going to happen to your acrylic paints. So again, every little nook and cranny, every score that you've cut, really get it on there as best you can. And once it's dry, go ahead and put on your second coat. This will cover up any of the areas that were kind of being fought over. It will thicken up your protective coat and give you a chance to maybe get inside any of the parts you missed. For me, it also darkened the rock down a bit more, which is nice. So basically, it's to make sure everything's covered, to thicken up the protective coat, and make sure everything's covered. And it doesn't take the second coat doesn't take very long, obviously, because most of it's already covered. So you just slather it on. It goes on a lot easier second time round. And once that's done, you will have a very dark based modular rock system. So this is Stan, and he is my size checker. And as you can see, Stan goes up the cliff, and for our rules you can go up one step as movement, so that works out well. That's why we use the 1.5. You can use it as cover. Stan's no longer in cover. Now Stan is dead. So now, once you've got the space, you can pretty much turn that into whatever you feel like. For my hills, I want them kind of moorland, slatish, is what I had in my head when I started. So I'm now going to put on some gray and highlight and get some, you know, interesting tones in the rock. Now, when I first started doing this, I thought, oh, I'll just give it some gray highlighting, and oh, earthquake. There we go. So thought I'd just give it some gray highlighting, and I went across, but then it wasn't enough because I want to do some more with this, and this wasn't going to be bold enough. So I just went back to my dry palette and then added a lot more, and then did more of an overbrush, and thought, well, that's good. So I started building them up along the corners at the top. That's where light would hit, you know, depending on where the sun's shining, but you don't know which way you're going to put them around, so you do all of them. And then worked it towards the middle and gave the middle some, so as you can see, the corners get lots, and then it gets kind of dragged towards the middle. And then when I needed to kind of clean my brush a little, or, you know, agitate the paint, I would then just give it a good old scrub over the middle, and then go back to my palette, and then from the corners to the middle. Then once that's done, you also want to do the sides, so you pick out the strata layers that you did and try and pick some details from there. Now again, I'm still going to be working with this over the gray, so this is not going to be the finished product. I didn't spend too much time on this because most of it's going to get covered up. What this is for effect for the next colors that I put over it. So now those are dry. I went over and I got myself some dark brown contrast paints, or speed paints, and I thought, well, it's going to be like peat and loam, you know, moorland kind of colors is what I was going for, very subdued, and just give it again a quick coating over. And then as you can see, I don't care, it's gonna wash over the sides. I'm not trying to keep too sharper highlights on the corners or anywhere else. You kind of feel your way into it. It's the best way I could describe that. There's no math formula or anything I can tell you. This isn't sped up. I'm actually working this fast because this stuff dries pretty quick, and I'm trying not to leave, as you know, too bold of a brush mark here from my brush. So I'm whizzing over it, and as you can see, as it dries really quick, it's darkening up. It actually makes it look a bit like wood, which is fine. That's a good thing. That's an organic color, and I'm happy with that. And also, you're gonna want to think about, you know, on doing the sides. When you do the sides, think about, you know, mud running off, mud catching places. And if you don't overthink it, just slap it on with an idea. You can always go back and do highlighting back over this. So if you go over stuff too much and you don't like it, if you want more contrasting bits or more details to show up, you can always come back with a lighter color or with your base gray or whatever you want to do, and pick out pieces that you want to do dry brushing. Again, I want quick heals, so I've got it in my head what I want, and I'm going at it like an idiot, and that gives me my base colors that I had in my head. Now once that was dry, I went in, I used 50/50 PLA, some blended turf, and then I put the flocking on top. Now here's the thing about the flocking, it looks like it's got straight lines and everything in it, but I knew what I was going to do next, which I'm going to show you. That's the thing about flocking, is I find it hard not to get straight lines in it, unless I work at it, which I didn't want to do on these hills. So to break that up, what I do is I got 50/50, well actually 75/25, so 25 PLA glue and 75% water, and then I put it in a squirt bottle, which didn't have a spray function. Excellent. But it doesn't matter, because the aim of this right now is that turf flock really does like soak stuff up. So what you want to do, and I've used this before a long time ago, so I was trying it again now to see if it was still true. So by putting it on like this way, I don't know how it reacts, but it reacts in a certain way. You've got to get it like soaked with this, with PLA and water. And this is how soaked you want it. So, and you can see already it's starting to kind of bead up into bubbles. It's not, it's taken on a much rougher texture. So if you let that dry, which takes forever, I will tell you, that's what you get, which is more of a moss look. And the added bonus is it made my rock kind of semi-shiny like slate. So with all the scoring and the texturing we did right at the beginning when we were building solid bones for this, it worked out really well. So again, thanks to Haunts Wargaming. Now, I knocked 11 of these out in 2 hours, not including drying time. So that was my goal. I need to build, a decent amount of terrain in a short amount of time so I can crack on and get other stuff. However, I can come back and beautify these whenever I get a long weekend where I don't want to do too much, just turn on the music and sit down and fiddle with some terrain. So these are excellent for that. The flock version that I did, you may not like. I like it because I was going for kind of like a slate look, moors, and if you've seen moss on a slate roof, it's pretty close and I'm happy with it. Now I'm going to make quite a few more of these, and the wonderful thing is they lay flat in a drawer, and I've got 2 deeper drawers that I'm going to fill with these, and I will have enough hills to cover my table pretty much. So the storage, check. They're fast, quite simple to make, check. And they're inexpensive to make. That XPS foam, if you buy it at Lowe's, I think. The sheet size that they sold, they didn't do the 8x4s. They did them in a smaller size. I think they were like, I don't know, about 3 foot by 3 foot. I can't remember. Anyway, they probably cost me $10 in foam to make the ones that I made. So inexpensive. Going through this process also gave me an idea. If you have seen my video on making battle maps, and if not, go look at it. I'll put a card up in the corner here. On the second side of that battle map, I textured it to look like slate and then went ahead and just painted it. I think what I'm going to do, my next battle map, with these textures, I'm going to try what I just did with these rocks and see if I can get like a moorland battle map with the flock and everything and the slatey look. And, these will fit right on it. I mean, these fit pretty much, on most maps. Which, again, once you've got the bare bones, about halfway through this video, you've got the bare bones, you can paint these up and highlight these and do what you want with them. If you want them to be desert mesa, you can paint them that way. However you want to do them. You can make them, if you want to do alien planet and put like blue crystals in them, you can do that too. But these are very modular. You can rearrange them, and if you want to, like Haunts Wargaming did, if you want to use them as solid cover all the time, just use thicker foam. I did it so they covered about half of a model, and then it was kind of like step up, and if he's behind a slope, he's only, in cover, he's not totally obscured. Vehicles are hull down, that kind of thing. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my variation on a very excellent way of building modular hills. And if you did, please like, subscribe, and then I'll keep faffing around with the camera. Thanks again for watching. Have a good one.